The 1983 Australian Rally Championship was contested over just 4 rounds. The first 3 events did nothing but throw the whole series wide open. The last round would decide the championship, and although any one of the 10 drivers could win the title, the main contenders were David Officer from Victoria, Ross Dunkerton from Western Australia, and New South Wales' Peter Johnston. To find the 1983 Australian Rally champion, we travelled to the town of Bright in northeast Victoria for the 1983 Arco Alpine International Rally.
Last November, 100 drivers from all over Australia flocked to the picturesque town of Bright to take part in the 60th Victorian Alpine Rally. Since 1968, when the National Rally Championship was inaugurated, the Alpine Rally has been the final round in the series. Despite the fact that 3 rounds had already been run, the title was still undecided and a number of drivers were still in contention. Although not one of them, Jeff Portman, who was last year's champion and Alpine winner, was determined to once again win the Alpine Rally.
I've won it both the last 2 years in different cars, and this time we're tackling it again in the Bluebird. I'm fairly confident we can win the event. We're going to have some difficulty because we haven't got as much power as we did have last year even. We're back to a small motor. It's a modified 2-litre engine, which has come standard in the car. I think just through reliability and the fact that the event is all daylight, it's a long event, it covers 2 days, I think that the reliability of the car and our good backup, we can probably win the event again, I think, yeah.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Portman and his navigator of 8 years, Ross Runnels, were the first to start. The rally began with each driver having to complete 2 laps of the Bright Dirt Circuit. The National Championships consist of 4 events, beginning with the James Hardie National in Brisbane, which in 1983 was postponed 6 months because of the drought. At the end of the first 3 rallies, David Officer and Kate Hobson from Victoria held a slim half-point lead over Peter Johnson and Jeff Jones from New South Wales, who were closely followed by West Australian Ross Dunkerton, who had a good chance of taking out the series with the help of his experienced navigator, David Cortland.
This particular car we're running is what we call a standard motor car, which is a Group A car. We won't be competing for an outright victory, but with this particular motor car, this is what CAMs are trying to do, to get away from the hot type built motor cars. We hope to win the championship.
The cars driven in the championship are classified according to their engine capacity. Class A is up to 1600 cc's, Class B is 1600 to 2000 cc's, and Class C is 2000 cc's and over. Hugh Bell and navigator Paul Patterson, who are regarded as being one of the fastest rally crews in Australia, lived up to their reputation by clocking the fastest time around the dirt circuit. Ian Hill and Phil Bonzer in the Class B Ford Escort were also among the main contenders for the championship title. Altogether, the drivers had to cover 340 competitive kilometres through forests and along specially selected circuits. The weekend was divided into 4 sections, 3 on the first day and 1 on the second. The first section, from the start of the rally in Bright to the lunch break in Beechworth, was made up of 11 special stages.
And there is an almost big loop. And a very, very spectacular entry by none other than George Fury.
The rough roads claimed a number of early victims. Already by the 4th special stage, 4 crews had been forced to withdraw from the rally. Among them were Jeff Portman and Ross Runnels, who only managed 7 minutes and 58 seconds of competitive driving before having to pull out.
Some 2 kilometres back down the road, we were getting along fairly well, and we plotted a big rock in the road. It was well embedded into the road, dented the sump guard, the cross member, and unfortunately the impact broke the oil pickup off the motor, so the oil pressure dropped away and we had to stop.
Although they put on a spectacular performance, taking corners at dangerously high speeds, George Fury and his navigator Monty Suffin in car number 5 at Datsun 120Y just couldn't manage to find a smooth driving rhythm. Fury, who has twice won the Australian Rally Championship and the Southern Cross Rally, finished the morning section in 5th place. In 4th place at the end of the first 12 stages was Ian Hill, who drove somewhat inconsistently throughout the morning. Although he came second and third in 5 of the stages, he only managed 11th, 12th and 23rd positions in 3 other stages. After the first few stages, Hugh Bell and Paul Patterson in their Datsun 1600 had slipped to 10th place. However, by lunchtime they had worked their way back to 3rd place. In 2nd place were David Officer and Kate Hobson, who were leading the 1983 championship. Kate was one of only a few female crew members in the rally.
Well, I get a book of instructions that tell me distances between intersections and what to do at that particular intersection. It might be a straight on or a turn right or a turn left, and I've got to call it down roughly from 500 metres as we're going towards it and say, right, turn right or whatever, and keep on doing that the whole time.
Greg Carr and navigator Fred Gazentis, whose car, the Fiat Abarth 131, was plagued with a variety of problems during the 1982 Alpine Rally, had moved into 1st place. Carr and Gazentis had won 8 of the morning stages and came 2nd and 3rd in the remaining 2.
When you're in front, it always seems to go a bit better. But I enjoy the Alpine. I like the roads. I like the conditions. And my car's running absolutely perfectly, so that always makes things a little bit better. And it's a nice day. There's a fair bit of wind blowing, so the dust isn't a problem. The wind's blowing the dust away. And we're just having a really good run.
During the lunch break, each car had to undergo a noise test. Each vehicle had to conform to a noise level of 96 decibels. The cars were tested in accordance with the test procedures laid down by CAMS for rally cars. The lunch break also gave competitors a chance to repair cars that had been damaged during the morning section. Makeshift panel beating was the order of the day, as was hurried mechanical work. David Officer's Gallant had suffered a broken differential, and his support crew worked frantically to replace it in time for him to start the afternoon section on time. Greg Carr and Fred Gazentis began the second section with a 1 minute and 18-second advantage over David Officer and Kate Hobson, who had clocked 47 minutes 2 seconds over the first section. Refreshed after their short break, Carr and Gazentis were confident of maintaining their lead. The afternoon, or second section, consisted of 8 special stages. The first was near Beechworth. Then the competitors drove through forests around Myrtleford before moving onto the old Hume Weir motor racing circuit just outside Albury-Wodonga. By the end of the afternoon section, close to a fifth of the 100 cars in the rally had found the going too tough and had to withdraw from the event. Greg Carr and Fred Gazentis continued to drive in a style reminiscent of that which won them the Sunday Times Safari earlier in the year. Their left-hand drive Fiat Abarth ran smoothly, enabling them to win 6 of the afternoon's 8 stages. They finished the afternoon section with an overall lead of 2 minutes 43 seconds. David Officer and Kate Hobson in car 16 had slipped back to 3rd position after an inconsistent driving display which included a 15th position in the afternoon's 6th special stage. Ian Hill and Phil Bonzer in their Ford Escort managed a 1st and 4 seconds in the afternoon section, which put them into overall 2nd place, a position they would have to maintain if they were to have any chance of taking out the 1983 championship.
I was hoping that we'd be somewhere in the first 3 any rate at the end of today, and I think if we're probably second at the moment. Greg's established a fairly big lead, really, of about 2.5 minutes or so. So I think, if we are second, I'm fairly happy with that.
The final stage in the afternoon section was the bitumen circuit by the Hume Weir. Here, the drivers changed their winter tread tyres for sets that would give their cars better traction on the hard surface. The competitors were required to complete 2 laps of the tricky circuit. Hugh Bell and Paul Patterson in car 3 recorded the equal fastest time over the bitumen circuit. They finished the afternoon section in overall 4th place. The 3rd section of the Alpine Rally was the night stage through the Bright Plantation. All vehicles had to comply with the rally lighting regulations, which allow a maximum of 4 forward-facing driving lights. First to begin the night stage was Ross Dunkerton.
Well, as far as driving at night, I think it's probably safer. Probably the drivers go a little bit quicker. I know I do go quicker at night than I do during the daylight, probably because I can't see the big drops off the side of the road, and you probably go 5 or 10% quicker at night than you do in the daylight.
This year, the night section was considerably shorter than in years gone by. The average time taken by competitors to complete the day's final stage was around 10 minutes. Hugh Bell and Paul Patterson drove superbly, finishing in the fastest time at 9 minutes and 4 seconds. Greg Carr and Fred Gazentis were only 5 seconds behind in 2nd place. They finished day 1 in overall 1st place. Hugh Bell and Paul Patterson finished 2nd, and Ian Hill and Phil Bonza were in 3rd place. Like day 1, day 2 of the 1983 Alpine Rally began with the competitors having to complete 2 laps of the bright dirt circuit before moving on to surrounding plantations. The drivers' starting order on day 2 had been rearranged according to their placings at the end of day 1. The overnight leader, Greg Carr, started 1st. Hugh Bell in car 3 started 2nd, and Ian Hill in car number 4 was the 3rd to tackle the short dirt circuit. Hugh Bell in the Datsun 1600 took 1 minute 38 seconds to complete the first stage, which allowed Ian Hill, who clocked 1 minute 33 seconds, to cut back Bell's lead by an important 5 seconds. David Officer in car 16 could only manage a time of 1 minute 44 seconds on the first special stage, which caused him to slip from 4th to 5th place.
Yes, we changed our goals this year at the event. One of the biggest complaints from the competitors has been that the nighttime section has had too much influence on the results of the event. And also, we wanted to change the face of the event a little bit to make it a bit harder for us to be able to tell who was going to be the winner on Saturday. So as a result, we made Saturday much, much more easier than what has been in the past. And I'd say this morning, as the competitors leave to go into the Meriang plantations, they're going to find they're going to have 400 kilometres of the toughest part of the rally facing them.
Greg Carr continued to drive well, and after the first of the day's stages was still well in the lead. However, Lady Luck abandoned him during the 2nd stage, and his car developed diff problems, which forced him to pull out of the rally after completing stage 3. When Greg Carr and Fred Gazentis withdrew, Hugh Bell and Paul Patterson, who were in overall 2nd place, automatically assumed the lead. The Datsun 1600 crew were 18 seconds ahead of their nearest rivals, Hill and Bonza, in car number 4. The Datsun 120Y team of George Fury and Monty Safern moved into 3rd place, a further 5 seconds behind. The 4th and final section, which was the only section held on day 2, was made up of 13 special stages. The average total time taken to complete the 13 stages was around 2.5 hours. Less than halfway through the final section, more than a quarter of the competitors had thrown in the towel due to mechanical problems. George Fury and Monty Safern in car number 5 drove confidently and slowly but surely began picking back the leaders. By the end of the day's 9th special stage, Fury had managed to completely eliminate the lead Ian Hill held over him. At the beginning of the 10th special stage, Hill and Fury were sharing overall second place. The morning special stages proved to be more hazardous than most of the competitors had anticipated. By the lunchtime service break at Ovens, south of Myrtleford, the field of 100 cars had been reduced to 60. The crews took the opportunity to give the cars a final check-over in preparation for the last special stages, which would decide not only the winner of the Diamond Jubilee Alpine Rally, but also the Australian Rally Championship. Hugh Bell in car number 3 was the first to get away after the break. He was determined to hold on to his precious 9-second lead over George Fury, who was now in second place. Ian Hill and Phil Bonser, who were in third place, were also within striking distance of the leader. With only 3 special stages left to go before the finish, disaster struck George Fury and his navigator Monty Safern. Just as they snatched the lead from Hugh Bell, their Datsun 120Y broke down. Unfortunately for them, the damage, a broken camshaft, was too severe to even contemplate fixing. They were left with no other alternative but to simply withdraw from the rally. Clive Slater and Steve Owers in the Toyota Celica drove magnificently all day. They had started the final section in 16th place and had slowly worked their way through the field to end up securing 4th place in the 1983 Alpine Rally. David Officer and Kate Hobson in the Galant managed to hold off the challenge from Clive Slater, and they finished the rally in 3rd place, which was not quite good enough for them to take out the National Rally Championship. Up until the 3rd last special stage, Hugh Bell and navigator Paul Patterson held a precarious lead. They had started the day in 2nd place, and when Greg Carr ran into difficulties in the 2nd special stage, Bell moved into 1st place, which he maintained for the following 9 stages. However, during the 11th special stage, Ian Hill hit the front with a 10-second lead. In the 2nd last stage, Bell wrestled the lead back, but he lost it again in the final stage when, in a dramatic finish, Ian Hill and Phil Monser clocked the fastest time and won the rally with 20 seconds to spare.
And the first place getters, formerly in the 1983 Inkerville Alpine Rally, the Ford Escort driven by Ian Hill and navigated by Phil Bonser.
It was very close at the end. 2 stages before the finish, there was only 2 seconds my way, and the last 2 stages were fairly tense, particularly after I stalled the car in one of the water traps in the first one of the 2 stages, and that put us nearly a whole minute behind Huey Bell.
At the end of the rally, the 10 fastest drivers did a lap of the bright dirt circuit, which gave Ian Hill and Phil Bonser a chance to show off their winning style. Although Ian Hill won the Alpine Rally, it wasn't enough to earn him the 1983 Australian Rally Championship. The title went to Ross Dunkerton, who finished the Alpine Rally in 11th place.